Order. Honourable Member for Bhopal-Limoilou, 4 minutes and a half for his speech when the House resumes debate on this motion.
Order. Order. We'll now proceed with statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Joliette.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Luckily for the Prime Minister that we weren't sitting this summer because his government has achieved new heights of incompetence in just about every file. Canadian armoured vehicles being used against the Saudi civilian population, that's unacceptable. Botched management of the asylum seekers file, deplorable. The 180 of the Minister of Heritage in the file of Historia and Series Plus. The lack of emergency planning to help Quebecers caught up in Hurricane Irma. Unbelievable. And NAFTA negotiations don't look good. There's contested tax reform. Parliamentary reform could end up being imposed. And I could go on. Decidedly, the Liberals have reached their Peter Principle. For Quebecers, one thing is clear. We can expect nothing from this incompetent government and the 40 members in the shadow cabinet. When Quebec takes charge of its own affairs, great things happen. When Ottawa gets involved, it goes wrong. That's the lesson we've learned this summer, and that's what we're going to continue to demonstrate. If Quebecers want something done right, they have to do it themselves.
The member for Oakville North Burlington.
Mr. Speaker, after losing his leg to osteogenic sarcoma, Terry Fox embarked on a cross-country marathon of hope to raise money for cancer research. Today, the Terry Fox Run is the largest single-day cancer fundraiser in the world, raising over $750 million for cancer research to date. Yesterday, Canadians participated in the 37th annual Terry Fox Run. In Oakville, brave Terry Foxer Tegan Walsh sounded the horn to start the run. She is being treated for the same cancer that Terry had. Tegan's progressive treatment has benefited from breakthroughs in cancer research, many made because of the funds raised in Terry's name. As we return to the House this week, our hearts are heavy with the loss of our colleague and friend, Arnold Chan. The Terry Fox Foundation is committed to funding leading-edge research and innovative treatments for cancers like Arnold's, Tegan's, and Terry's. Thank you.
Honourable Member for North Okanagan-Shuswap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's good to be back in this first fall day of the fall session, although the passing of the Honourable Member from Scarborough Agincourt is a sad loss to all of us. I send condolences to his family and loved ones and recognize his commitment to serving the people of Scarborough Agincourt. Mr. Speaker, Parliament's return brings to mind another fall return that has been happening in the North Okanagan-Shuswap for millennia. The world-renowned Adams River Sockeye Run is an annual event, with salmon that have traveled thousands of kilometers returning to lay their eggs, start a new generation before dying and giving their nutrients to the river. This Friday, the Adams River Salmon Society will be holding the first annual gala fundraiser with traditional Schwitmek food and storytelling. I salute the volunteers for organizing the gala and their dedication to the health of Pacific salmon and all that depend on their return. I look forward to working with them in my new role as Deputy Shadow Minister for Fisheries, Oceans and Canada Coast Guard. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to offer my congratulations to CPAC, the Canadian Public Affairs Channel, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary.
I think we can all agree on how important CPAC is for Canadian democracy. Every day, this channel offers direct access to democratic institutions, to debates, to parliamentary discussions, and to the work of MPs. CPAC goes beyond the news headlines to always present events in their context and to allow Canadians to better understand their democracy.
CPAC is providing Canadians with complete coverage of events as they happen, featuring the work of parliamentarians across party lines and allowing Canadians to participate in the process on the platform of their choice. This year, CPAC is launching a digital democratic literacy project called Route 338, an innovative website that will make the institutions and the work of all MPs accessible to a younger digital native generation all across the country. Au nom de tous les députés,
On behalf of all MPs, we wish a good 25th anniversary to CPAC.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to bring to the government's attention the devastating impacts of wildfires on my province of British Columbia. 2017 was the worst year for wildfires in 6 decades, the second worst in BC history. Over 1,200 wildfires burned 1.2 million hectares, over 5,000 square kilometers. 155 fires still burn today. This disaster has destroyed houses and hurt people all over BC. It has critically harmed agriculture, forestry, and tourism, and caused profound damage to our environment, wildlife, and habitat. Yet this government's response has been inadequate. The Liberals refuse to match private donations from individuals like it did for Alberta last year during the Fort McMurray disaster. They failed to commit the same level of funds from the Disaster Financial Assistance Arrangements Program as for previous disasters like the Quebec ice storms. Today, I call on the government to immediately match all private donations and commit full disaster relief funding to British Columbia citizens, communities and businesses who have been so terribly affected by the 2017 wildfire disaster.
The honourable member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Mr. Speaker, last week, Constable Francis Deschênes was helping drivers close to Memramcook in New Brunswick when he was the victim of a collision and he lost his life. This is a great loss, especially for Nova Scotia's RCMP, for New Brunswick, and for his home region, Saint-Anne-de-Madawaska.
In 2004 and spent his career mainly in Nova Scotia, most recently in Amherst. He's remembered as a hero for using his vehicle to push a car out of the path of an oncoming train near Truro in 2008, and he was awarded the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2013. Nous offrons nos sympathies.
We offer our sincerest condolences to his family, friends, and colleagues who were going to join him for the National Memorial Day this Sunday to remember officers who have fallen in the line of duty. Instead, they will remember him with both sadness and pride, and we will all do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to congratulate CPAC today, the Cable Public Affairs Channel, as it celebrates 25 years of providing Canadians with quality coverage of the proceedings of this House. As a former broadcaster, I recognize and appreciate the importance of a fair, balanced, unbiased, and independent media outlet like CPAC. This is paramount so that Canadians can form their own opinions on the issues of the day. It has been 25 years since a group of Canadian companies took over the operations of this channel and expanded it into the country's only bilingual, commercial-free public affairs television station. On behalf of all of the Conservative caucus, I would like to acknowledge CPAC on a job well done and offer our wishes for continued success.
Honourable member for Avalon.
Mr. Speaker, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are mourning the loss of Corporal Trevor O'Keefe, a 17-year veteran of the RCMP. He served in Clareville and Belle Island and most recently was stationed in St. John's, where he was the public face and voice of the RCMP in our province. During his career, Trevor dealt with some very difficult cases, and his tragic death is a reminder of the emotional and psychological toll that police work can take. I know there are efforts already underway to try to understand whether he could have been supported better and to ensure that officers have the help they need so that this doesn't happen again. At the memorial service in Bay Bulls on Friday, Trevor was remembered as a funny, generous, highly respected, much-loved man and a first-rate officer. His family and friends and RCMP colleagues are in our thoughts and prayers. We offer them our deepest condolences and we join them in remembering Corporal Trevor O'Keefe with pain and with great pride. Thank you.
Honourable member for Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the BC wildfires continue to burn across British Columbia. In my riding, Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon, as for many others across Canada. This summer's wildfires were a very real threat to many residents and posed a serious disruption to many businesses and indeed many communities' way of life. The destruction of homes was a serious concern for many in my riding, but for members of the Ashcroft Indian Band and Boston Flat communities was a reality. As these fires continue to burn, I want to again acknowledge the hard work of the first responders, RCMP, volunteers, local mayors, local councils, as well as the leadership from First Nations communities. It is in times like these that our communities come together, displaying what it means to be Canadian. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the relationship between Canada and the United Kingdom is one of uncommon depth. We share a sovereign, a language, parliamentary institutions, and common values. We share so much, and we also share deeply in the pain felt by the British people when their values and their institutions are attacked, and when their citizens are attacked by terrorists. Last week, London went through another deplorable terrorist attack, this time at Parsons Green Tube Station. Daesh has claimed responsibility. Terrorist attacks in the Western world have become increasingly common, but they are nothing new to the people of London, who also remember the IRA period and the air raids of the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, as before, Londoners and all Britons have met these events with courage, with calmness, with the steely determination to fight back against evil, and with the continuing resolve to maintain and strengthen the values that have made Great Britain a great nation. As Canadians, we share your values and your institutions, and today we share your pain and your resolve. Hear, hear, hear.
The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle.
Do not be alarmed by the state of my visage. I did a little face planting on the weekend, but it's all good. I'm okay. Monsieur le Président, c'est un honneur pour...
Mr. Speaker, it is an honour for me to rise today to pay tribute to the citizens of the superb municipality of Saint-Bernard-de-la-Colle, who includes on its territory the well-known border crossing of La Colle. As it is one of the busiest points of entry in Canada, you are aware that more than 7,000 asylum seekers arrived throughout the summer. I am proud to congratulate the citizens of Saint-Bernard-de-la-Colle, Mayor Robert Duteau, Fire Chief Normand Faye, and especially the residents of the famous Roxham Road, who worked with the RCMP and other authorities when it came to emergency facilities and issues of security. But it is also them. It's also they, Mr. Speaker, who asked me on several occasions, how can we help these people? And so, Mr. Speaker, that is how we welcome and support newcomers in Châteauguay-Lacolle. Thank you. The honourable member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
The Right Honourable Theresa May, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
I am proud that the relationship between our two countries has been positive and is based on mutual trust. The United Kingdom is an important ally of Canada when it comes to international relations, the environment, security, and trade.
Its history and values, Canada and the United Kingdom are the best of friends. Following events such as Friday's terrorist attack in London, the strength of this friendship is more important than ever. Canada has always stood shoulder to shoulder with the United Kingdom. We have done so in the past, and we will do so in the future. On behalf of all members of this House, I welcome the Prime Minister and her colleagues, and I trust that her visit to Canada will serve to further deepen our strong historic bonds. Welcome to Canada.
The Honourable Member for Les Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to highlight today the delivery of the largest ship ever built in Canada by a Canadian shipyard in 20 years for our Royal Canadian Navy. July 20th, the Davie Shipyard celebrated Project Resolve, which is an innovative and ingenious solution to meet the urgent needs of our Royal Canadian Navy by transforming a container ship into a joint support ship that is at the leading edge of technology. As the recent Senate Committee on Defense recommends, the government must acquire without delay a second similar supply ship for our Navy, and there are urgent needs when it comes to icebreakers, struggling to ensure the navigability of our waters. To ensure our security and the sovereignty of our borders, the Liberal government must take advantage of the capacity of our shipyards and ensure the government must act without delay.
Honourable Member for Sydney Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, along with many of my colleagues and the Prime Minister, we attended a wonderful ceremony celebrating the life of the late Alan J. McCacken, who passed away last week. In the year since I was first elected, I got lots of advice from Mr. McCacken. Over time, I got to understand and respect the work, whether it was people on the wharf, people up here in the halls of Ottawa, or in the international community. Whether it was Medicare, labour laws, charter rights, he was remembered by all. Mr. McCacken always told me to make it a priority to get home and listen to my constituents. Mr. Speaker, while I was attending a trade meeting in San Francisco a few months ago, I heard a story about Mr. McCacken arranging a Middle East peace conference to wrap up on Thursday so he could be home Saturday to meet with his constituents. Mr. Speaker, may we never forget the great contributions Mr. McCacken gave to Cape Breton, Canadians, the international community. His legacy and dedication will live on forever.
The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise to congratulate CPAC, the Cable Public Affairs Channel, on its 25th anniversary. In 1992, many Canadian cable companies joined forces to ensure that all Canadians could receive complete coverage of their elected officials working in the House of Commons.
Remains the core of the channel, but it has since grown to provide Canadians with a window on a vast array of political and public affairs events, from party and leadership conventions to grassroots federal election coverage to town hall debates about the issues that truly matter to Canadians. Au nom du nouveau Parti démocratique du Canada.
On behalf of the New Democratic Party of Canada, I offer congratulations to CPAC. And I would like to convey our thanks for helping all political parties reach Canadians from coast to coast to coast. A true public service.
CPAC.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, I've got some words for the member from Sydney, Cape Breton, who just talked about listening to his constituents, because about 10 days ago, TransCanada announced that it applied for a 30-day suspension of its Energy East pipeline application. Now, this suspension, Mr. Speaker, goes directly to the new regulatory hurdles that this Liberal government has put in place. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid that this suspension is putting the government on notice that this project is going to be shelved, and that would be shameful, Mr. Speaker. It would be even more shameful to continue to import 1 million barrels of oil a day from foreign countries. And now, with the approval of the Keystone Pipeline, Mr. Speaker, those 1 million barrels of oil are going to go to the United States. So it's time for the 31 Liberal MPs, including yourself, Mr. Speaker, to talk to the Prime Minister, to say, get out of the way. Let's get this project approved, and let's create jobs in the member of St. John's riding and the member for Malpeque, and not in Louisiana, Mr. Speaker.
member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On October 14, 2017, we lost our dear friend, the Honourable Member for Scarborough Agincourt, Arnold Chan. Arnold started his life as a political staffer back in the 1990s. He was engaged in the political process since the age of 13. He cherished being a Member of Parliament for Scarborough Agincourt, where he deployed a lifetime of experience, knowledge, and wisdom to serve his constituents and to elevate, in both tone and substance, this House. Arnold loved democracy. For him, it meant listening and responding to every possible perspective, including those quiet voices that are seldom heard. He inspired and motivated everyone he met and worked with, guiding them on how they too could take their passions and create positive change in this world. His world revolved around his family, parents Sandra and Anthony Chan, his brother, Dr. Kevin Chan, his boys, Nathaniel, Theodore, and Ethan, and his beloved Jean, his rock. Thank you for sharing Arnold with us. He has inspired and challenged all of us to be better people and to think with our heads and to follow our hearts. Farewell, my friend. You have earned your rest above the clouds.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this summer I spent my time crossing the country talking to hardworking Canadians, job creators, and entrepreneurs. And I can tell the Prime Minister one very simple thing. They are not tax cheats. These are the people who mortgage their homes, who take an idea and create opportunities in their neighborhood. So my simple question to the Prime Minister is, why is he hurting the very people he claims he wants to help?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there is no suggestion that any Canadians aren't following the rules. The problem is the rules we have currently favor the wealthy over the middle class. We have a system right now that allows wealthy Canadians to use private corporations to pay lower tax rates than middle-class Canadians. That's not right. We got elected on a commitment to change that system, which is why the first thing we did was raise taxes on the wealthiest 1%, lower them on the middle class, and why we're continuing to work on fairness every day.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Alors, Monsieur le Président, parlons.
So, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about fairness. Can the Prime Minister tell us what's fair in preventing a mechanic from growing his business? Is it fair for employees who were laid off by the restaurant where they work simply because the owner has to pay more taxes to cover the out-of-control spending of the Prime Minister? Where's the fairness in that? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Canadians put us in government because they recognized that it was unfair that the middle class paid too much tax and that the wealthiest Canadians found ways not to pay as much tax. We currently have a system that allows rich individuals to use private corporations to pay lower rates of taxes than the middle class. That's not fair. That's why the first thing that we did was increase taxes on the wealthiest to lower them for the middle class. And that's why we will continue every day to see what we can do to help the middle class. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Understand his own policies, and he doesn't understand that small businesses don't use these tax measures to cheat the system. They use them to save money when times are good, to get them through when times are bad. Now, right now, a mechanic can save in these investments to save up for a new purchase, which will allow her to hire another worker. The Liberal plan will tax those investments twice, once they flow into the business and again when they flow to her. That will kill any opportunity for her to expand and hire more workers. So once again, can the Prime Minister explain how that will make the middle class better off?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians sent us to government to make the tax system fair, to make sure that everyone pays their fair share. That's why the very first thing we did was raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% and lower them on the middle class. And we are now making sure that a system that currently allows wealthy individuals to use private corporations to pay lower tax rates than middle-class Canadians gets changed. That's something that the previous government allowed and encouraged to happen, but we know that we grow a strong economy by helping the middle class and those working hard to join it, not the wealthiest.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, nobody in the last election asked the Liberal Party to attack job creators. Now, we've already established that this isn't fair, and we know that it's not compassionate. So why is the Prime Minister doing this? Because he's drowning in debt. And a drowning man will reach out and grab on to anything and not care who he drags down with him. And who is he taking down with him? Young Canadians looking for their first job, new Canadians looking to share in the prosperity in Canada, and women entrepreneurs who are hit disproportionately harder with these new tax measures. So why is the Prime Minister hurting the...
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite and indeed the entire opposition has been going around the country telling every doctor they meet that they stand with them, that they will defend their rights to pay lower taxes than the nurses who work alongside those doctors. We don't think that's fair. But if the members opposite do want to stand with wealthy doctors, will they commit right now to restore the system of tax breaks for wealthy individuals after we make the changes that Canadians expect us to do?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Get it. These aren't wealthy Canadians. These are hardworking middle-class entrepreneurs who put everything on the line. He likes to talk about income sprinkling, and income sprinkling is a bit of a problem at big companies like Bombardier. The billionaire Bombardier Baudouin family sprinkles shares to its family members to keep themselves in control and vote themselves big raises, even as their own government forks over $400 million in taxpayer bailouts. Yet massive public corporations like Bombardier won't pay a penny more. Why is the Prime Minister taxing local businesses while big companies continue to get big bailouts?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to stand up for workers in the aerospace industry right across the country who work very hard and create extraordinary products like the innovative, extraordinary C-Series aircraft. We will continue to stand up and defend the hardworking Canadians who are building this country every single day. Our commitment is to the middle class, those working hard to join it, which means workers, which means small businesses who create opportunity and growth in their communities. Where we are changing the system, Mr. Speaker, is to prevent the wealthy Canadians who use private corporations to get out of paying their fair share of tax.
Order. It's good to see the members are enthusiastic coming back after the summer, but I ask them to contain their enthusiasm until it's their turn to speak. On that, député d'Outremont.
The honourable member for Outremont.
Speaker, at no time since the Cuban Missile Crisis has the world been more aware of the threat of nuclear weapons. I'd like the Prime Minister to cast his mind back to last spring when I asked him about nuclear disarmament, and he told me that it would be, quote, well-intentioned but useless for Canada to be at the table for the UN talks. After the war of words between Donald Trump and Pyongyang over the summer, does he still believe that engaging in UN talks about nuclear disarmament is useless?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are committed to leading, ensuring that our children will inherit a world free of nuclear weapons. Our approach involves both nuclear and non-nuclear armed states. We have taken a leadership role on a UN high-level group that is preparing the way for a fissile material cutoff treaty to end the production of nuclear weapons. We're providing support to the International Partnership for Nuclear Disarmament Verification to develop credible and innovative monitoring and verification capabilities. We believe this collaborative, measured, and determined approach is the most effective way forward on nuclear.
The honourable member for Outremont.
The problem is, of course, the UN talks are taking place without Canada. The Prime Minister talks a very good game when it comes to world peace, but he refuses to be at the table where we could be playing a role. Une chance que Lloyd Axworthy.
Thank goodness Lloyd Axworthy didn't act like that. I'm very proud as a Canadian that the Anti-Landmines Treaty is named for Ottawa. If there are no more if there are thousands of lives that were saved because of that work, it's thanks to Canada. So why are we not at the table for talks about nuclear disarmament? That's the question, Mr. Speaker. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know that the NDP is always there with their beautiful words, but Canada needs to be there to really act, and that's what we're doing by leading the charge on the treaty against fissile material. We know that it's essential to build a freer world that is free of nuclear arms so that we can protect our children and future generations. That's what Canada has always done, and that's what Canada will continue to do proudly under this government. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Saudi Arabia is another issue that the Prime Minister has failed on. He promised Ensef Aidar that he would intervene on behalf of her husband, Raif Badawi, but it's been 2 years and nothing's happened. In the meantime, his government has allowed the sale of arms to Saudi Arabia, a country with an abysmal human rights record. There's evidence that Saudi Arabia has used Canadian weapons against civilians. So let's stop this rhetoric. Will the Prime Minister take action and ban the export of arms to Saudi Arabia? Yes or no? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are very concerned by the reports about the use of weapons against civilians in Saudi Arabia. Of course, we will continue to ensure that our partners are respecting all of the rules, and that they're doing so much more openly and transparently than under the previous government. But I should remind the honourable member that it was his member for London Fanshawe who said that when you have a contract, you need to respect it once it's signed. Even the NDP knew they had to respect a contract. The honourable member for Outremont.
Does the Prime Minister really not understand the difference between a contract to manufacture and his responsibility to sign the export permits? That's what this is about. Canada has a rule under international law that we won't export to countries that are using arms manufactured in our country to attack civilians. That's what's happening in Saudi Arabia, a country with a horrible human rights record. The Prime Minister loves to talk a good game. We're increasing our greenhouse gases every year. He talks about the environment. We're exporting to Saudi Arabia to kill civilians. When's the Prime Minister going to start talking and start acting?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take very seriously our responsibilities as a government. That's why we put in place a degree of transparency and openness, particularly in regards to arms sales, that the previous Conservative government never even went near. We will continue to ensure that all Canadian rules and regulations are responded, and if they are not lived up to, there will be consequences in terms of how we move forward.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, all across the country, Canadians are expressing their anger concerning the Prime Minister's tax changes. Part of that anger has come from his own members. The member from Malpeque, who is also the chair of the Finance Committee, said that he is not impressed, and I'll quote him, he said the government needs to step back. When will the Prime Minister listen to his own caucus and take a step back? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have a government that believes that the diversity of opinions is a source of strength, and we will continue to encourage our members to express the concerns of their citizens. That's something that we will always do as a government. But we also know that Canadians elected us to make the tax system more fair. And that means that we need to prevent individuals who are wealthy, preventing them from using corporations to pay a lower tax rate than the middle class. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the member for Halifax has said that he won't be able to support the government's plan. There are too many constituents of his that will be negatively affected, including plumbers, fishermen, and others. When will the Prime Minister start listening to Canadians, hardworking Canadians, who will be hurt by his tax plan? Right Honourable Prime Minister. For 10 years, Mr. Speaker, we had a Conservative government that focused on giving advantages to the wealthiest Canadians in the hope of creating economic growth. But that didn't work for Canadians. That's why Canadians elected a different government, our government. We had promised to help the middle class and all those working hard to join it. And the way that we're doing this is ensuring that the middle class don't pay more than they have to, and that the taxes are increased only on the wealthiest.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's front bench looks a little jittery today, but that's nothing compared to his back bench. Here's what another one of his own MPs said about these tax increases, and I quote, "I believe in my heart that these proposed changes will discourage entrepreneurship and hurt the very people we want to help." Sound familiar? If the Prime Minister won't listen to farmers, small business owners, hardworking Canadians, will he at least listen to his own caucus and stop attacking job creators?
Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have been listening to Canadians all summer, indeed for many years, Canadians who find that it's unfair that our tax system, which was heartily endorsed by the previous government, gives advantages and benefits to the wealthiest that aren't there for the middle class, including hardworking middle class small businesses and farmers. We are going to ensure that wealthy Canadians do not have the option of using private corporations to get out of paying lower tax rates than middle-class Canadians. That's something that Canadians expect in terms of fairness, and we will continue to support the middle class, including small businesses that create.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he still doesn't get it, and his arrogance is astounding. He's attacking the entrepreneur who has to self-fund her maternity leave because she doesn't have a government-funded plan. So she puts a little money at the end of every month away so she can afford to take time off when the baby comes. Now, right now, she pays 50% tax on any passive income she earns on those savings. And the Prime Minister's plan will tax her now twice, once when it goes into the business and once when it flows to her. So why is the Prime Minister forcing female entrepreneurs to choose between their business and their families?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's very clear that the members opposite don't actually understand this proposal, but there's no big surprise because they didn't understand for 10 years that giving tax breaks to the wealthiest doesn't help the middle class, doesn't grow the economy. That's what we saw from them in government for 10 years. Mr. Speaker, and even now that they're in opposition, they continue to not understand. They stood and opposed lowering taxes for the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%. They opposed ending the sending child benefit checks to millionaires so we could do more for 9 out of 10 Canadian families. That's what we're focused on.
The Honourable Leader of Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Nobody believes that raising taxes on job creators to fund billion-dollar bailouts will help the middle class. Stand with his wealthy friends, and I will always stand with hardworking Canadians that don't have government-funded maternity leave, that don't have access to EI, and who never ask for a bailout when times get tough. So when will the Prime Minister listen to tax experts, entrepreneurs, and even his own caucus and stop this attack on the middle class?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, do you know what we haven't heard? In all the outrage and all the talking about these proposed changes from the members opposite, the member opposite has not committed to reverse these changes. He has not committed to take away, to restore these benefits to wealthy doctors and to private corporations. They're happy to talk about outrage, but they are not proposing to keep this system. And that inconsistency is the heart of the problem, that they invent problems, exaggerate them, and then won't act, because they know that helping middle-class Canadians matters.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after listening to the Prime Minister today, I have no doubt that he's just going to go ahead and ram through these tax hikes. You know, as Conservatives, we believe in raising people up, not tearing people down. We believe in ensuring that everyone can achieve prosperity, not in taking it away from anyone. And Conservatives wake up every day trying to think of new ways to lower taxes. Liberals wake up every day trying to find new ways to raise taxes. But I want to take this opportunity to assure Canadians that the pain will only be temporary. We will fight these attacks on job creators. We will fight it every step of the way. We will save local businesses.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservatives talk a good game, but when it came time to actually lowering taxes on the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%, they voted against that. When it came time to deliver the Canada Child Benefit that helps 9 out of 10 Canadian families with the high costs of raising their kids, focused on helping the middle class and the hardworking Canadians working to join it, they voted against it because they wanted to keep sending the child benefit checks to wealthy families. Well, that doesn't work. We will always stand with the middle class in this country and defend Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Essex.
Canadians know that NAFTA's side agreement on labour standards is weak and unenforceable. The result? Negative effects on worker safety and fair wages, driving down standards across North America. Today in southwestern Ontario, Unifor Local 88 CAMI members are on strike, experiencing firsthand the effects of companies relocating production to exploit these weak labour rules. Reports from renegotiation indicate Americans are opposed to any changes to labour or their regressive right-to-work laws. How can the Liberals expect to achieve meaningful progress on NAFTA labour rights to protect Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. We support NAFTA, and we believe NAFTA has created jobs and growth in Canada and across North America. Having said that, we believe this modernization negotiation is an opportunity to make a good agreement even better. And I want to assure the member opposite that a very strong element of the Canadian negotiating position is to push for higher labour standards.
Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. When it comes to protecting our good aerospace jobs, the Liberals are not doing a good job. The case of Aveos and the 2,000 jobs lost at Bombardier are two sad examples. When it comes to standing up to our trading partners, whether it's Europe or Trump, the Liberals always drop the ball. Mr. Speaker, Boeing's complaint against Bombardier is jeopardizing over 6,000 jobs, as well as the future of the C-Series. Last week, I protested with members of Unifor and the machinists, and they are concerned. What will the Prime Minister do to protect these jobs and these families? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we are criticizing Boeing's complaint about anti-dumping laws in the import of the Airbus. Our government will continue to raise this very important issue at the highest level with Boeing so that we can defend the interests of the aerospace workers in Canada. This is a very important issue for Canada and for our government.
Carlton.
Foreign investors are anxious to snap up world-famous Canadian farmland and rent it back to our farmers at exorbitant prices. They're getting help from this Liberal government. The new tax changes will apply a 45% dividend tax on sale of farmland from father to son and zero tax on the sale to a foreign-owned conglomerate. Why is this government helping foreign businesses turn our farmers into tenants of foreign landlords?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our current tax system favors the wealthy over the middle class. We want to make sure
that we address advantages that go to only the very wealthiest Canadians. We know how important farmers are to this country. We're going to listen to farmers to make sure that they continue to be advantaged and they continue to be able to provide the goods that we need across our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carleton.
It's another double standard, just like this one, Mr. Speaker. The average small business owner earns about $73,000 a year, and when they save money for a rainy day or their retirement, they will be taxed at a rate of 73% on their investment income by these changes. Large publicly traded companies, like, say, Bombardier, will not. Why is it this government is hitting our small business, middle-class entrepreneurs with a much higher tax rate than their billionaire friends in the biggest corporations in the land?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, again, we'd like to deal with a system that favors the wealthy over the middle class. What we want to make sure is that small and medium-sized businesses in this country can invest in their active business to create jobs and help to create a healthy economy. We're going to continue to listen to those small and medium-sized business owners to make sure that we get this right. But make no mistake, we will ensure that we follow through on our commitment to make sure that our tax system is fair.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have decided to unfairly attack small businesses who create wealth in our country. They're punishing the very entrepreneurs who are creating jobs and wealth. Meanwhile, big companies like Bombardier are receiving enormous subsidies, and the top executives in those companies are paying themselves exorbitant bonuses. And at the same time, they're cutting middle-class jobs. My question for the Prime Minister is simple. When will he decide to choose between defending Canadian taxpayers and ending these tax hikes? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, we currently have a tax system that favors the wealthiest over the middle class. We will continue to listen to people across our country, as I did this summer, to ensure that these measures will really make the system fairer for the future. It's clear that small and medium business owners will be able to continue to make active investments in their companies. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, the current government has completely lost control of public spending. Not only are they running deficits 3 times higher than planned, but they have no idea when they're going to finally balance the budget, rather. So, to pay for their extravagant spending, now the government has decided to tax our job creators, our wealth creators, our entrepreneurs even more. Why is the government deciding to attack small business owners instead of reining in their spending? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, we decided to make investments in our country, investments in the middle class. Now, we have the highest growth rate that we've had in the last 10 years. And almost 4,000 new jobs have been created in recent years. So it's very important to continue with a system that is working for Canada, and we need to also to maintain this highest growth rate in the G7.
Mr. Speaker, last Friday, New Democrats launched our End Pension Theft campaign. We believe it's time to introduce legislation to protect the pension and workers and retirees who have worked so hard and they have earned. Currently, there's a long list of companies that have used Canada's inadequate bankruptcy and insolvency laws to cheat workers out of their pensions and benefits. Will the Prime Minister stick to his election promise, stand in this House today, and pledge to change the laws so workers never get cheated again?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands the importance of secure pensions and the impact of employer insolvency on Canadian workers and pensioners. Canada's insolvency laws, as the member mentioned, aim to strike that proper balance between the competing interests of debtors and creditors. They enable Canadian businesses to access credit, invest and create jobs, while ensuring that stakeholders, including employees and pensioners, are treated equitably. We'll continue to examine our market framework laws, including insolvency laws, to ensure that they're up to date and effective and help pensioners, and employees.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, in Quebec, a number of companies have used unfair practices to steal from our workers' pension plans to boost the profits of their parent companies abroad. Companies like Cliff, Abitibi, Bowater, White Birch, and Nortel are good examples. Now, Sears is taking advantage of our inadequate bankruptcy and restructuring laws to rob our workers. Workers earn their pension fund after a lifetime of labor. Why are the Liberals allowing these companies to steal from our workers and retirees? The Honourable Minister.
We understand the challenges on employees and their families and on their communities, and we're monitoring the situation very closely, Monsieur le Président. Under the CCAA, companies can continue to operate and preserve jobs while negotiating a restructuring plan, and it's currently under court supervision, including employees, pensioners, and suppliers. As you know, Mr. Speaker, proceedings are now before the courts, and I'm unable to comment on the specifics with respect to Sears Canada, but we are monitoring the situation very closely and will continue to work with the employees and the pensioners.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, this summer, residents of British Columbia have been dealing with wildfires that have resulted in the evacuation of thousands of people and burned over 1 million hectares of land. The thoughts and prayers of all Canadians are with residents who have borne the brunt of the fires and with the courageous and dedicated first responders. Can the minister please tell us how the government has been helping to protect and support residents of BC at this difficult time?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, people affected by wildfires and the first responders working to keep them safe have been our major priority all summer long. We've responded positively to every single request made by the province of British Columbia, including assets of the Canadian Armed Forces, supplies for evacuees, accommodation and transportation for firefighters, and helping ensure public safety during evacuations. We've also made a major contribution to the Red Cross, more than matching. And while the state of emergency has been lifted, we'll be keeping British Columbians very much in our thoughts and in our action plan throughout the recovery process. The disaster cost-sharing process has only just begun.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard from thousands of people across my riding with regards to the Liberal tax hike on small businesses. Nicole is 34 and a recent graduate. She's now working as a family physician in a rural area of Alberta. These changes will now make it impossible for her to save towards maternity leave and start a family. Currently, there are provisions that support her as a woman by allowing her to save for parental leave, but the new changes will rob her of this very basic right. Nicole feels betrayed and left alone. Why won't the Prime Minister do the right thing and stop his attack on young women entrepreneurs?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, again, we want to be clear. The current system does favour the wealthy over the middle class. What we are going to do, though, is ensure that we listen to people as we move forward on measures to take away tax advantages for the very wealthy. We will be listening to people like Nicole. I am committing that we will not put women in a situation where they are in any way having a worse situation than men through these measures. And I will commit, if that member would like to give me Nicole's phone number, I would be happy to call her to listen to her and her concerns.
Honourable member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, I'm just back from Lac Saint-Jean, and I can tell you things aren't going well for local entrepreneurs, professionals, and farmers, the ones who create jobs every day. The Liberals are launching a direct attack on them with tax hikes to pay for their astronomical deficit. Mr. Speaker, what does the Prime Minister say to Canadians and Quebecers and workers in Lac Saint-Jean who are going to lose their jobs because of the Liberal tax reform? The Honourable Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, what I say is that we don't want a tax system that favors the rich more than the middle class. That's our basic premise. But I will listen to people to make sure that our measures have the desired result. And that is a system where there are no advantages only for the most wealthy, no bigger advantages. With small and medium-sized business, we will continue to have a tax system with the lowest tax rates in the G7.
Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, I was in Moncton
talking to local businesses. And this past weekend I was in Perth, Andover, and I was talking to local potato farmers. These aren't the wealthy Canadians, Mr. Speaker, that this government would have you think actually exist out there. The ones that the finance minister so glibly said that he's going after. We have only 10 days, Mr. Speaker, to have their questions put to this government in the House. And although it sure sounds like they made up their mind already based upon their answers today, Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering, out of decency, would they consider extending the consultation period?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, you made a promise to deal with a system that provides advantage for the wealthiest over the middle class. We've been working on this for the last 2 years. We reduced taxes on middle-class Canadians and raised them on the top 1%. We've moved forward on other measures that are having a huge impact on those that are in the middle class or struggling to get in it. The measures that we're putting forward here, the measures that we're listening to Canadians on, the impact, are intended to make sure that we don't have tax advantages going to the very rich. That's what we're trying to achieve. We want to do this while ensuring that small businesses continue to invest to grow our economy.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, I was also in Cape Breton and Digby, and I was talking to fishermen on the wharf there. You know, fishers work hard, 14-hour days, and at the end of the season, all they want to do after they pay out their insurance, the repairs to their vessel, and maybe be able to pay their crew their full amount, they just hope that they have a little bit to put aside for their retirement, because we all know there's no pension in fishing. Mr. Speaker, I spent my summer listening, and I understand the impact of these reforms on Canadians. Will the Minister of Finance come down to earth with the rest of us mortals and actually listen to what's going on in
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, by following through on our promise to deal with a tax system that was creating advantages for the richest among us, we know we're going to make a positive impact in our economy. We are listening. I've been out, like the member opposite, across the country, listening to professionals, listening to fishers, listening to farmers, to hear about their issues. We're going to listen to those issues to make sure that the measures we put forward deal with what we're trying to do. We don't want to have a situation where someone who earns $300,000 might find themselves in a lower tax rate than someone who earns a third as much. That's what we're trying to get at, and that's indeed what we will achieve.
The Honourable Member for South Okanagan West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, while the state of emergency in BC has ended, British Columbians are only now beginning to recover from the damage caused by the wildfires. Some of the 65,000 evacuated returned to find their homes damaged or destroyed. Others came home to learn that they'd been laid off from jobs in the hard-hit forestry sector. And like the strong people of Fort McMurray, British Columbians will rebuild, but they can't do it alone. Will the Prime Minister commit to providing ongoing full financial assistance to communities devastated by these wildfires?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has done three things in response to the fires. First of all, make sure that all of the assets and resources of the Government of Canada are available to the Province of British Columbia and the First Nations of British Columbia to fight the inferno. Secondly, to make a major contribution to the Red Cross to assist with their immediate relief efforts. Thirdly, to establish a special committee of Cabinet to engage all of the assets of the Government of Canada in the recovery process, and the disaster financial assistance formula is there to help cost share the expenses over the long haul, and the Government of Canada will...
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
The inquiry into murdered and missing Indigenous women got more bad news this weekend. Maclean's reports that out of the $5 million spent by the inquiry, $2 million was taken completely by Privy Council office bureaucracy. Yet families needing extra help with travel and counselling for the inquiry are told there's not enough for them. Can this really be true? Are the Liberals really spending 40% of the inquiry's budget on bureaucracy?
Honourable Minister of Indigenous Relations.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ending the ongoing tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. We have launched a truly national, independent inquiry, and we're going to make sure that the voices of families are heard and that they get the answers they deserve. Our government is also taking immediate action with investments on women's shelters, housing, education, child welfare, and improving the safety on the highway of tears. We expect the interim report of the Commission to be on time in November.
The honourable member for Mégantic-Les-Érables. Mr. Speaker, where was the Minister of Agriculture this summer when his colleague, the Finance Minister, proposed to put an end to the family farm model in Canada? And the minister's strategy was questionable, launching consultations smack dab in the middle of harvest season. It shows what a lightweight the agriculture minister is within cabinet and what a low priority agriculture is to this government. Will the Minister of Agriculture stand up today and do the only right thing, as some of his colleagues already have, and defend farmers? The Honourable Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, we want a system that's fair, with no advantages for the most wealthy over the middle class. For farmers in Canada, we know it's very important to have a situation where they can continue going about their business. That's important. I'll be listening to reactions from farmers. It's very important. And we will continue with our program to ensure the continuity of their farms. Now, a member for Mégantic-Les-Érables. Mr. Speaker, I met with farmers in Lac-Saint-Jean, dairy farmers, just last week. They're working hard to support their family and their entire region. Just like grain producers in Saskatchewan and ranchers in Alberta, their job is to feed Canadians, not to redress the Liberals' out-of-control deficit. The minister says there are only proposed changes subject to reaction. What the Minister of Agriculture is not saying is what he thinks of this wholesale attack on Canadian agriculture. Is he going to oppose these changes or not, or is he just going to sit idly by and watch the Canadian family farm disappear? The Honourable Finance Minister. Mr. Speaker, I know that our measures are to make a system that is ever fairer. I will be listening to farmers. If there are farmers in Lac-Saint-Jean who want to speak with me, the member could give me their numbers and I will call them, because I do want to listen to make sure that this system continues to be good for farmers in Canada.
Order. Order. The honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are working awfully hard to take away every opportunity for Canadian farm families, imposing a carbon tax, eliminating the deferral on cash grain tickets, and now these punitive tax changes which will make it almost impossible for Canadian farm families to sell their farm to their own children. They'll be having to sell it to multinational firms. As Conservatives, we know that hard-working Canadian farm families do not use their land as a tax shelter. In fact, they use it to feed the world. Will the Liberals abandon these tax changes, or will they saddle Canadian farm families with the burden of paying for this Prime Minister's out-of-control spending?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we want to be clear that what we're looking to do is to make sure that our system doesn't have advantages for the wealthiest that don't go to the middle class. What we want to do as well is make sure that we listen to people as we put through these consultations. That's why we have a consultation period. We are listening to farmers, we are listening to people across the country to make sure that the measures that we're putting in place will allow them to continue to invest in family farms, which we know are so important to our economy and to our country. That is my commitment, and I would be happy to talk to the member opposite's constituents if he passes me their numbers.
The honourable member for South Shore, St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the Halifax explosion, when a munitions explosion killed 1,600 people, injuring thousands more. It was also the largest loss of firefighters in a single event in Canadian history. To mark this anniversary, the Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency Service hosted the annual Firefighters Memorial Weekend in Ottawa earlier this month. Honoured at that memorial was my constituent, Jeffrey Lilly, a 15-year veteran of the Lunenburg and District Fire Department. Can the minister tell us what the government is doing to support the brave firefighters who put themselves at risk to keep us safe?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, firefighters are community heroes, and we've been pushing an agenda to support their needs by restoring search and rescue funding, developing an action plan to deal with operational stress injuries, and creating a fund for families of firefighters who fall in the line of duty. We've also designated the second Sunday in September as Firefighters National Memorial Day, beginning last week, with flags lowered in honor of those who have lost their lives protecting the rest of us. They have our deepest gratitude and our enduring respect.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan's Milkmean Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, local businesses have been plunged into total uncertainty as they grapple with the Liberals' unfair tax plan. Now, these same entrepreneurs are usually the first to invest and the first to hire in our communities across this great country. For them, a 75-day consultation in the dead of summer is not sufficient, nor is it fair. Will the Finance Committee Chair ensure that consultations about the devastating impacts these changes will have on small business are extended until all Canadians who want to be heard can be heard, Mr. Speaker?
Widely.
The Honourable Chairman
Mr. Speaker.
of the Finance Committee.
Mr. Speaker, I'd suggest the rhetoric of the official opposition is getting widely out of hand. Do they not favour consultations? I know that's what happened under the previous government. Consultations are taking place until October 2nd on the Department of Finance paper, and the Minister of Finance is driving those consultations as he should. I would suggest to members opposite and to all Canadians, embrace the consultations, welcome them, get your point of view out there, and then better decisions will be made.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, on the topic of consultations, without notice, my community learned from the American media that the Liberals approved the request of an American billionaire to give him a new expanded bridge between Canada and the United States in our community with zero consultations. This surprise announcement came amidst confusion and chaos surrounding the Gordie Howe International Bridge project, a public crossing that is a complete free-for-all since Liberal patronage appointed a person who has cozy relationships with this U.S. billionaire, who has been incarcerated in the United States for a project in there for contempt. Now, Mr. Speaker, why is this actually justified?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, all Canadians recognize just how vitally important the Windsor-Detroit crossing is. Every single day, 10,000 trucks cross that bridge, the Ambassador Bridge. We have authorized the replacement. I have been in touch with the Mayor of Windsor. There are very specific conditions that will apply before the new bridge is there. And of course, our commitment to the Gordie Howe Bridge is 100%, as was stated by our Prime Minister and President last March in the White House.
Yes. The honourable member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, we know Canadians care about our pristine coastline. Our government's Ocean Protection Plan delivers on this issue. As a Member of Parliament for Steveston East Richmond, I'm very proud of these historic measures. Can the Minister of Transport inform this House and Canadians on our new Ocean Protection Plan provisions?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I'd be delighted to do it, and I thank the member from Steveston, Richmond East, for his excellent question. I am incredibly proud of Canada's Oceans Protection Plan. This is an unprecedented plan that will ensure world-class marine safety and protect our pristine coastline. And that's why I was delighted to be in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago to announce, amongst other things, the plan that we have called Let's Talk Oceans Protection Plan. It's an online tool that will allow Canadians to express themselves. We're looking forward to their feedback. I encourage all Canadians to go online at Let's Talk Oceans Protection Plan. Thank you.
Honourable member for Carleton.
The minister claims to be concerned that wealthy people would pay lower rates than middle-class people. Then explain this. Under his proposal, the pizza shop owner who puts aside money to earn a little bit of interest and eventually pull it out for retirement would pay 75%. The Bombardier executive, who has shares in that company, and it makes passive investment, will pay about 50%. Wow. If the member is really interested in helping the middle class, why is he hitting the pizza shop owner with a much higher tax rate than the Bombardier billionaire executive?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to address our plan to make sure that our tax system doesn't advantage the wealthiest at the expense of the middle class. What I do know is that there's much inaccuracies that are being put forward, including in this House. I'm happy the member opposite has asked for a briefing from my department. We're happy to have him have that briefing. Perhaps he'll understand better what we're trying to achieve, which is really to make sure that advantages that go to the wealthiest, that in fact are bigger and bigger the wealthier Canadians are something that we deal with. We know together that we agree that this is not the way our progressive tax system is supposed to work.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. This week is Democracy Week, so it seems. Mr. Speaker, the Catalan people decided to exercise their right to self-determination, and Madrid's crackdown infringes on the most fundamental democratic principles. Police raids in newsrooms have led to the seizure of 1 million documents and 700 politicians being virtually threatened with imprisonment. Where will it all end? Ballots cast at gunpoint? The Prime Minister will address the UN this week. Will he condemn the Spanish government's attitude? That's the least we can expect from someone who claims to be a Democrat. Mr. Speaker, Canada wants Quebec, Spain to solve this problem in a proper way, and we have shared values. And as far as Canada is concerned, the issue with Catalonia is a domestic matter for Spain, and we hope that whatever the outcome is, it will be done democratically and with full respect for the law. The honourable member for Repentigny. In an open letter of September 16th, Quebec's Minister of Culture wrote that the basic thrust of Canadian cultural policy announced by the Canadian minister is worrisome. The Canadian Minister of Heritage has only 3 priorities: Canada 150, which no one cares about, Radio-Canada, and pandering to internet giants like Netflix and Spotify. Will the minister revise her priorities and work for Quebec culture instead of against it, beginning by levying GST on internet giants? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have invested $1.9 billion in arts and culture. That's the biggest budget in the past 30 years, and we're the only G7 country to have invested as heavily. I know that our creators are anxiously awaiting our vision, which will be developed in the weeks to come. We don't think that a new tax on the middle class is the solution. One of our first steps we took was to reduce taxes, in fact, on the middle class. So I'm awaiting more information on the issue before proceeding. The honourable member for Repentigny. When my colleague for Manicouagan or Verchères, Les Patriotes, buys diapers for their baby, they pay GST. When you go to see a play, a concert, or a movie, you pay GST. Mr. Speaker, when you buy a book in a bookstore, you pay GST on it. So I'd like to know, how does the Heritage Minister justify the principle behind GST exemptions for U.S. streaming giants like Netflix and Spotify when Quebec taxpayers have to pay GST on essential goods and services? The Honourable Heritage Minister. Mr. Speaker, the issue of supporting arts and culture in Canada is a priority. That's why we've invested so much, $1.9 billion. That said, we're also in favour of reducing taxes on the middle class. And we made a clear commitment during the election campaign that we would not hike middle-class taxes. I'll have the opportunity in the weeks to come to present my vision on how to support arts and culture in the digital era, and I hope that my colleague will be present. Thank you.
There have been discussions among representatives of the parties in the House, and I understand that we will now proceed to tributes to our late colleague, Arnold Chan. I now recognize the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is with a heavy heart that I rise today in this House to pay tribute to the honourable member for Scarborough Agincourt, our colleague, my friend, Arnold Chan. Last week, Canadians across the country mourned the loss of an exceptional parliamentarian and a great Canadian, of a proud son, a dedicated husband, and a loving father gone too soon. Aujourd'hui, nous rendons.
Today, we pay tribute to Arnold's accomplishments, to the man that he was, and to the example he showed us. A real fan of the parliamentary world, Arnold got involved in politics at Queen's Park, where he was Michael Chan's chief of staff before becoming senior advisor to Premier McGuinty's office. It is at that time that he started to collect some of the best campaign stories, stories that he liked to tell at parties,